Hello and welcome to this episode of the Social CMO Show. I'm your host Shilpi Agarwal, and my guest today believes in two things. He believes to look for opportunities where no one else is looking and never fail the same way twice. He also happens to be the Chief Marketing Officer for BitTorrent. Please welcome Jascha Kaykas Wolff.
Shipley, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing very well. It's a very happy Monday today. So,
Yeah, we were
great
just
weekend.
talking about
Kicking
spring
off the
break,
week.
right?
Exactly. Well, we have a spring break for our kids this week, so hopefully we'll get some visitors in the office.
Well, it's pretty quiet.
Well, I just found a nice quiet corner, that's all. Otherwise, there's lots of activity outside.
Okay, cool. So tell us, you have a very big brand. You've worked with Microsoft, Yahoo. You've worked with Oracle, Involver. That's part of Oracle now, and now you're with BitTorrent. Tell us about your professional journey.
Yeah, well, so first off, Shipley, I'm super happy to be here. I think the idea of being able to share some of the experiences that I've had and some of the things that we're trying to accomplish here at BitTorrent is just an absolute pleasure. So I appreciate that. But for me personally, my career goes back now almost 20 years. I found my way into marketing almost 15 years ago. And over the course of the last 15 years, I've always considered myself to be a product person who just happened to find my way into marketing, has really fallen in love with some of the practices that exist in marketing. And you mentioned some of the brands that I've had the fortunate opportunity to work for. Really, there have been kind of two themes that have driven the majority of my personal career and professional career and kind of personal opportunities with that. And those are kind of simply one, I've been very fortunate to work with companies, for companies, and on products in particular that I've got a really strong personal passion for. So every place that I've had the opportunity to be has been guided in one part by the fact that we're very focused on products that I personally use and know. And I find as a marketer, being empathetic to the products that we're building, being the first and best customer is one of the best positions for me personally to be in. The second piece for me has really been around the processes that we use within the organizations that I'm a part of. Very specifically, the methodologies for the way that those teams that I've been a part of have found kind of success on behalf of the company. So finding a nice cultural fit kind of for me and some of the practices that I think are important in being a part of an organization that really works on product that I have a personal relationship with have made me very personally happy. And I've been incredibly fortunate to have some good professional successes along with that.
Absolutely. And so BitTorrent is notoriously, has some reputation management challenges. So how do you deal with privacy and piracy and all of that?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I'll tell you about BitTorrent in the context of what really got me excited about BitTorrent. So I grew up in the 70s. I saw the internet kind of come to fruition, and I've seen it progress kind of in its uses over the course of the last 15 to 20 years. As it's become this kind of legitimate commercial kind of entity. And for me, kind of very, very personally, I have some philosophical views into the way that the internet's progressed that I'd like to try and impact personally, and to have an opportunity that professionally is a big driver for me. So very specifically, over the course of the last couple of decades, we've seen a handful of large companies kind of build these gigantic data stacks out where most of our individual personal information is being stored. A lot of that's happening unwittingly, and it's happening unwittingly because we as individuals get a ton of conveniences from using tools like Gmail and Yahoo Mail, et cetera. But we don't necessarily recognize kind of how the trust model that exists on the internet is different than the way that it started. The attraction to me for BitTorrent is that first and foremost, BitTorrent is a technology company. You mentioned that we have reputation challenges to work through. We absolutely do. And in large part, they come because we as an organization hadn't historically told the story of where we came from. So our founder, Bram Cohen, actually invented the BitTorrent protocol now close to 11 years ago, almost 12 years ago, as a replacement for HTTP and HTTPS. So back, a decade plus ago, he believed that over time, people would have greater access to the internet speed. The second thing that would happen is that bigger files would start to be transferred around on the internet, both of those have played out pretty true, right? And those bigger files oftentimes take the shape of media.
Mm-hmm.
He invented the protocol as kind of a core way for the internet to handle sharing large information when you had a stronger connection, speed in particular. And all of the things that he believed to be true have all played their way out. As an organization, we created this not-for-profit or organization that released open source software, the BitTorrent protocol in particular, and that's been used by handfuls of different constituencies throughout its existence. One of those is, and this is kind of part of our history, a lot of academia. So like the organizations like the Hepahedron Large Collider, the Human Genome Project, they all use the BitTorrent protocol to push information around because it's a lot more efficient than HTTP or HTTPS. And then in the same vein, organizations like Facebook and Twitter also use the BitTorrent protocol to push updates across their servers. While kind of academia and the business world have kind of latched on to this technology because it's a very important technology, in the same vein, some kind of bad actors on the internet had also glammed onto the fact that this protocol is much more efficient to transfer information. And it's those other organizations that really have kind of impacted us from a reputation perspective, right? They went out and created sites where people could actually go and download pirated content. The organizations that were trying to shut them down and still are trying to shut them down couldn't get to them. And so they really looked at the core technology and began to blame it. In a lot of regards, that's not the right thing for them to have done, but it still puts us in the position that we are today, where we have to focus on reputation management. So as a marketer, as an organization within a technology company, we have to tell our story, kind of this origin story for us, but also represent how we as an organization are developing a portfolio of software that help support the challenge that I expressed as we kind of kicked off the beginning of this discussion. Like, we build peer-to-peer technologies, and we do so in a way that allows for individuals to take control of their personal information in a very kind of a series of very different ways. So as an organization, we're very much aware of kind of the reputation challenges that have existed for us historically. And as an organization within BitTorrent, we're really focused on how do we tell the story of the technologies that we're producing and do so in a way that resonates with end users, which in turn kind of supports the turning of the reputation that we had kind of wrongfully been associated with over the course of years.
Great. So BitTorrent is now moving towards the big brands, like it's going towards the big, like we have seen billboards on San Francisco and New York saying, your data belongs to you, as well as people greater than servers. So tell us a little bit about the marketing strategy behind these billboards.
Yeah, so our marketing strategy is really pinned on kind of two main concepts. The first is that we need to continually own the story of our brands, of the BitTorrent brand. And so we focus quite a bit of work around our communications and our story, telling who we are and what we've done. The second piece for us is really to express how each one of the products that we're developing, and we have several products that we're developing, support kind of what we think is important on the internet. Now, understanding that that's a combination of kind of brand marketing and on the other side, kind of product marketing, for us, we've been exposing kind of the brand of BitTorrent out in very traditional out-of-home media buys with an explicit attempt to actually drive activity around both of those two objectives, right? The billboard campaigns for us, the out-of-home campaigns in particular, have been very focused on telling the story of BitTorrent, kind of who we are, what we believe is important, because kind of broader statements, your data should belong to you. As an artist, you should be able to sell your art without selling your soul. We tell that, we say that in these brand campaigns because they do two things for us. One, they express who we are, kind of what we care about as a brand. And secondarily, they actually support our products indirectly. So in the case of the couple that you had mentioned, people not servers, the underpinning of all the technology for all of our different products built on peer-to-peer technology, which is that statement kind of wrapped up very cleanly and tightly, and your data belongs to you, is a very explicit nod towards one of the products in the sync and share category that we've developed called BitTorrent Sync. So we'll continue to invest this way over the course of time, both supporting the brand of BitTorrent with an intent to kind of continue to manage the reputation that we have as an organization, but also make sure that each one of those products that we develop have the ability to be successful on their own.
Yeah, that was, I was going to the next question. So Sync and Bundle are your two important products. So how do you make sure that they have a good market mind share?
Yeah, so Sync and BitTorrent Bundle, both very different products and both important products for us as an organization. So let me tell you a little bit about the way the products are developed here, and then we'll talk about each one of those products specifically. So for the course of the last several years, the organization has been kind of run through an innovation process that we internally refer to as the Palooza process. So the basic idea is that everybody in the organization gets 20% time, so imagine a day a week. During that kind of day, that 20% time, the teams are able to self-organize within the company and work on a specific project. That project has to do two things. Kind of one, it needs to be supportive of the mission that we have as an organization to make the internet better and to do so through superior products. And the second is that it has to be kind of related to or built somewhere around these peer-to-peer concepts. So each month, sometimes a little bit longer than a month, maybe every month and a half, we get together as an organization, all 200 people of us, or a little bit less than 200 people, and we present the ideas that have been completed, those that have been turned into projects. When those projects kind of finish and are presented to the whole company then does a popular vote on them. The popular vote then kind of for that particular product gets that product funded, and then a new product kind of is introduced out into generally a very early alpha stage. And at that point, kind of together with the marketing team and the product team, we start to work on that go-to-market strategy for the product. The reason that I express this to you is that in the context of Bundle and in the context of Sync, both of those products started from this Palooza process. But very importantly for both these two products, they have very different and unique go-to-markets. BitTorrent Bundle is a product that's focused on kind of one, artist enablement. So if you are an artist, if you produce content, video, music, books, etc., there's a myriad of different types of content available. You have a pretty significant challenge right now, and that's that there are a lot of intermediaries that stand between you and your fans or your end customers. Sure. So what our objective is to get that content directly from those artists directly out in front of the 170 million plus people a month that use the BitTorrent products. We economically make it interesting for the artist because we take a very small percentage of the transaction cost. So let's say you buy a $10 kind of video from a specific movie producer or movie director that you like, they get the majority of the dollars, 90% of the actual cost of the product. The second thing that's even, I think, more important is that unlike the big intermediaries that exist today, each one of the artists get all the information from the customers or the fans that have purchased directly from them. So as an artist, imagine for you with your podcast, you actually would know who is listening to your podcast and you'd be able to market back to them. In the context of today, you probably don't know who all the people are that listen and kind of watch the content that you're producing. So why do I explain kind of all this background and history for you? One, because we focus on making our products successful by really understanding whom these products are being built for. And in the case of BitTorrent Bundle, we're very closely associated with what's happening in the artist community, kind of in music, film, and television. We work very closely with kind of that entire industry to make sure that the product is being developed in a way that can support their businesses and kind of the economics of their lives moving forward. On the flip side, we know that the end customers that ultimately, and the end fans that will ultimately be getting that content, we work on kind of feedback loops with them, customer feedback through user testing and customer polling and kind of user experience research, to make sure that kind of there's a nice harmonious ecosystem of feedback so that we can continue to develop these products moving forward. The same is very true on the Sync side. Sync is a product that was also introduced via a Palooza. It's gone from kind of its concept a year and a half ago in Palooza into a product that was just launched into what's quite frankly one of the most exciting products in BitTorrent's history, in that it is built on the protocol, works unbelievably well inside of businesses, and is a standalone business within BitTorrent. So a kind of a unique business that has grown from this Palooza process. In the BitTorrent Sync world, our focus in marketing has to be around how do we develop with the product team the view into the end users features that are most desirable, ultimately impact the product roadmap, and then get the product out based behind use cases that we know that customers tell us that they're using the product for. So that kind of loop that exists between product marketing and product become absolutely imperative for us to be successful. And that's ultimately the way that we think about kind of launching new products and making the products that we currently have available successful. It's a very tight relationship between marketing and product, and a very tight relationship between marketing, product, and the end users of the product as well.
So we talked about how Bundle was built so that there's more freedom for artists for creative content and to own their content. Speaking of which, just released the BBC Doctor Who series on BBC, right?
That's right.
BitTorrent. So tell us about it. Is that a step towards more strategic alliances similar to that?
Well, there's a couple of really amazing stories about the team behind Bundle. The relationship with the BBC was, I think, a year plus in the making. Our chief content officer, Matt Mason, has been an absolute integral architect, and a lot of the work that our team has been doing around establishing these really significant relationships. The BBC for us and the content around Doctor Who, other than me personally being a huge fan of Doctor Who, is exciting because it's another proof point for this product, for BitTorrent Bundle. To this point, although there have been over 10,000 different artists that have introduced their content into it, we've had some really
Lady
notable,
Gaga too, right?
right?
Yeah,
Lady Gaga.
too. Yeah.
We've had Lady Gaga. Tom York released his last album, kind of surprise through our platform through BitTorrent Bundle. And then on top of that, a couple of months ago, about a month and a half ago, we did work with a comedian and writer and actor and director named David Cross. David Cross released his independent film via BitTorrent Bundle in a really interesting model where he was able to allow for his fans to basically pay what they felt the film was valued at, so pay what you want model. So the BBC is definitely important for us. It's a really great proof point in an already very, I think, nice track record that our content team, the team working on Bundle, has been able to prove out.
So do you provide the data for each and every user back to the artist, like who downloaded the content and things like that?
Yeah, so what we do through the process, if you were to go in and download and or purchase a bundle today, or kind of rent a bundle, there's a lot of different methods that you can potentially get access to that content. What you do through that process is actually make your information available directly through to that artist. So BitTorrent doesn't have any rights to, unless you explicitly say you'd like to give us the ability to market back to you, we have no rights into that content, or into that personal information from those buyers. So our view of the world is very much, we will help enable the transaction, but we don't want to be a party to it because we really want the relationship between the artist and the end fan to be there.
That's nice. So then how do you monetize it then? Like going forward, do you monetize those customers?
So I mentioned this before. One of the areas that we do is that we do take a small percentage of the transaction fee. So 10% is what we ask for today, and that may change over time. It may decrease. It may increase a little bit. But right now, that provides us with the ability to kind of recoup operating costs, or could at least move in that direction. As an organization overall, BitTorrent Bundle, kind of the BitTorrent and uTorrent clients themselves are supported monetarily through an advertising network that exists inside of them. So we serve up about a little bit under 10 billion impressions a month, which is able to be purchased through our advertising team here at BitTorrent. And it's a pretty amazing audience. Our audience is highly built around 18 to 24-year-old males globally, which is a pretty attractive audience for both for artists that are trying to get kind of their content out, but also for advertisers that care about influencing that community.
Cool. So you are a big proponent of agile marketing, right? So
yeah, I am.
About, how are you applying agile marketing at BitTorrent? What are some of the challenges that you face, and how are you overcoming that?
Well, BitTorrent is actually a phenomenal kind of case study for the use of agile practices, not just in marketing, but across the organization. And before I even just jump straight into agile marketing and some of the ways that we think about it here, I'll give you kind of the reason that I think agile marketing is incredibly relevant right now for anybody that's in marketing that's listening to your podcast. So the first thing that we have to think about is if there are analogs in any other parts of the organization that should tell us in marketing, hey, we need to consider business process change in order to be successful. And I go so far as to say I absolutely believe there to be a very great case study that exists inside of our organization, especially if you work in software, that is influencing the way that we work in marketing and will be the preeminent kind of way that we work in marketing moving forward. And that's looking at the development organization. 15, 20 years ago, when software developers were developing software, they used a process that is referred to today as waterfall. It's basically this kind of linear process for developing resources, kind of incrementally kind of developing against a singular plan, but not making adjustments for it. In the olden days, 15, 20 years ago, what we would do is we would give the development team a series of specifications to develop a product. So they'd go away for a year, they'd come back and they'd give us a gold disc, and that gold disc would be the thing that we brought as marketing out to the market. No room in there for any iteration or any feedback. The internet came along and it became a viable vehicle for the delivery of software. What happened to software developers, what happened to software engineers that were designing software, well, they didn't mentally think that they wanted to produce a different kind of a product. They always wanted to create great products. The difference was that they had direct and immediate feedback from customers, right? They saw who used it, the data around it, et cetera.
Yeah.
The thing that was really challenged in that particular department is that they really didn't have the business processes to help them be successful with all of this feedback continuously coming. In about 2004 and 5, agile processes, lean processes found their way into software development. So this is a decade ago. And now, just as of last year, I think one of the latest stats is that 94, 95% of companies in the US and the UK use agile processes to drive software development. So the impetus for change was that business process change was the only thing that could support kind of better customer interaction once feedback data about the customers were available to developers. Marketing didn't really have the internet kind of come along and change the way that customers were interacting with them. What we did have is kind of more of a social and cultural revolution. 2005, 6, and 7, we saw pretty significant change in that these big social networks like Facebook and Twitter started to emerge and really become a part of kind of popular culture. When that happened, end customers, prospects, people that cared about our brands or didn't like our brands were able to interact with us as a marketing team, as a brand. And quite frankly, processes that we have used in marketing for the last century look very similar to the way that engineers were developing software back in the late 90s. So for us as an industry, as a practice, marketing, we're being forced to find new ways to interact with customers, prospects, kind of fans of our brand, detractors of our brand, and do so in a way that allows for us not to be completely crazy hair on fire. And pretty solidly, in my opinion, we borrow from the engineering practices. These agile processes in particular use the same basic principles inside of a marketing organization. And I think it can guide us to be a lot more successful being directly connected to our customers and ultimately help our teams be a lot more efficient and effective as well. In the context of BitTorrent, one of my attractions to BitTorrent, we had an organization of around 140 people when I joined, of which all of them had been certified in Scrum, which is one of the methodologies in Lean. So I was really attracted to join an organization where the philosophy of using Lean and Agile was already completely bought in. So the marketing organization was able to quickly adapt to the way that the rest of the company is working. And I'll tell you that as a marketing organization that makes up 8% of the costs of an organization our size, you're expected to be leveraged, and that's the right thing for a marketing organization to work at. But when we have 8 to 10 different products that we're working on with the product development team, the only way that we've been able to successfully get products out in the market, to kind of iterate on the go-to-markets for them and run these brand campaigns is because we've got a methodology that allows for us to take feedback quickly, iterate on it, and then ultimately get things back out into the market quickly. So I don't believe that we would be where we are today. We're not for the fact that as an organization, we're bought into these processes above all else.
So what are some of the challenges that you faced applying those principles?
One of the first things I think you have to be conscious of if you join a marketing organization is how you fit in with the rest of the company. As an organization, BitTorrent is a technology company first and foremost. We're technologists, and unashamed, unabashedly so. It's a big attraction for me of being here. What we had to identify out of the gate, and this is one of the biggest challenges, is how we as an organization would actually be able to dock in to the rest of the teams to support the initiatives that were measured to be most successful for the company, but also practically the way the rest of the business was working. So the very first thing that we had to solve for was that. And the right way that we did it here at BitTorrent was that we adjusted the way that the marketing organization engaged with the rest of the company. So we developed kind of durable teams. In the concept of Agile, you have, let's say, in the marketing world, you've got a product marketing manager, somebody in communications, somebody in social, somebody on the brand team, creative writing, copywriter, and then developers. So all the cross functions across marketing exist as one unit. And then that unit engages with one of the product organizations. So our team had almost an analog, perfectly analog structure to the way the engineering team was working. And it allowed for us to get products like Sync out the door and test it out in the market, get feedback from customers, and move through to the point where we are today. It's a commercial product. We did that across all the different products that exist in the business. However, as we ran up to the end of last year, our business priority started to change. As a business, we cared not just about getting products out to market, but about maximizing the growth across the business. And so we were able to very quickly think about how do we take the structure in marketing, the leverage in marketing, the concept of durable team, and apply them in a way that will help us push growth faster. Or think about growth as kind of a primary objective for us as a business. So instead of organizing around product teams, we were able to organize around business initiatives. So we've got a team that focuses on top line revenue growth. We have a team that focuses on conversion, et cetera. So this organizational philosophy has helped us address some of the bigger cultural challenges, which is how do you dock to the product organization, and how do you make sure that the marketing team is attached to the objectives that the company cares about to be successful, not just those things that we think within marketing are the most important things.
So you're also the author of Growing Up Fast, right? That's also centered around agile marketing as well, right? Correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So Growing Up Fast is a book that was kind of a passion project for Kevin Fan and I, who are my co-author and good friend. He and I, over the course of the last several years, have had a chance to work together at a few different places, and we've introduced these processes, kind of these philosophies for operating into those businesses. And over the course of a couple of years, he and I wrote, kind of individually offered and co-authored a series of different blog posts. At the conclusion of kind of all of these blog posts that we'd written, we realized that we had some very popular content, more so than others. So we took the most popular content that we had, brought them together, and then constructed a narrative around them and launched it as a book in August of last year. So very much in line with the concepts of Agile, we actually constructed the book in a very Agile fashion. And at this point, kind of our view into the way that the book is progressing on the sales side is that we're happy with our ability to get the product out, to have a chance to talk about the content of the book, and to do so in either interviews like this today or in public speaking opportunities, and then make adjustments to it, either add in new chapters, think about changing titles, those types of things, because we both believe in the philosophies that we've written about in this book.
Cool. No, that's so. Your book is also dynamic and agile as opposed to just being a static book. I love that. That's
awesome. Right, and you can do that today, which I think is pretty fantastic. Right, we've got access to the ability to publish and republish content at our fingertips, and it's a very low cost process for us as authors. But we have maximum control around it, which we really appreciate.
True. So, what advice would you give for a CMO to get started with agile marketing, and what's the process to go about getting started?
It's vastly different than it was 4 or 5 years ago. And there's, I think, some really good reasons behind that. Over the past 5 years, a couple of things that are pretty materially have happened. One, like the development side of the Agile world, in 2004, the Agile developers created a manifesto. And this manifesto is kind of the driver for a lot of the adoption that we've seen in the development teams over the course of the last several years. It was access to experts, it was kind of case studies, it was training materials, and even a certification program. In the marketing world, we actually had a meetup called Sprint Zero. It happened about 2.5 years ago in San Francisco. And we drafted together with about 60 marketers kind of the version of the marketing kind of Agile manifesto. So one of the first places to go is actually the agilemarketingmanifesto.org. You'll get access to a lot of the content that's already been developed. You'll get access to the authors of kind of the original manifesto. And then from there, we've actually developed a series of different meetups that take place in most of the major cities across the US and some in the UK. If you happen to be in San Francisco, the Agile Marketing Meetup happens once a month. There's about 2,600 members, all kind of different levels in the organization, from CMOs through to individual contributors. And we get together once a month to talk about just this, like, how do I get started? I am, mature in my discipline and using Agile inside of an organization. What are the things that we could consider introducing? So one, go to the content that exists today that helps connect to other marketers that are focusing on this. Two, find that local community that's working on these processes. And three, there's a lot of great kind of written content now about on blogs. There's a lot of consulting teams that are thinking about Agile now, and there are books. Like I'm obviously a big fan of Growing Up Fast. I think it's a great read if you want to get a sense of the philosophy behind kind of how to work with Agile in marketing, and you want to get an idea of what some of the major kind of tools are in the toolkit to help you successful. So go to agilemarketingmanifesto.org, go to those meetups, and I would go out and buy Growing Up Fast.
Awesome. That's some great resource. I'll definitely share that in the blog post as well. So cool. So what's next for you? What are you looking for in next 5 years? What are your plans? What do you want to do?
I feel incredibly fortunate in that I have found an area professionally that I'm incredibly passionate and excited about, and that's the kind of education of how the internet is progressing and the ways that we as individuals can think about taking control of our own personal data and doing so with technology. So I want to continue to work on that. And from a professional perspective, kind of working in processes like those that we've introduced here at BitTorrent and some of the other places I've been, kind of working with really great groups of people people on technology that I'm personally passionate about is a big driver for me as well. So if you and I talk again in the next 5 years, I expect that those are going to be the two themes that are going to keep me excited and driving in all the things I'm doing personally and professionally.
Absolutely. We will be talking. So good luck with that. And thank you so much for being with us today.
And it's completely my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.